the bank, you would require the bank to ask that customer first about the customer's race. Is that right?
So just to be clear, the proposal you reference, that has been changed since and has now into the final. The congressional requirement, and we are under a court order, requires race.
Don't filibuster me, Mr.
No, it does
Soper.
require
Just
race.
answer my questions, okay?
What you just watched is exactly why Senate oversight matters. This exchange between Senator John Kennedy and CFPB Director Rohit Chopra is not about theatrics. It's about power, accountability, and government overreach. Senator Kennedy isn't yelling for clicks. He's asking the questions millions of Americans would ask if they knew what was happening inside federal agencies that collect their personal data. A federal agency suffers a data breach affecting 256,000 Americans, delays notification, and then turns around and demands even more personal information from small business owners, including deeply private details that have nothing to do with lending. Senator John Kennedy did what too few lawmakers are willing to do: say, "Who gave you this authority?" If you believe transparency matters, if you think bureaucrats should answer directly to the public, and if you want unfiltered coverage of moments like this, subscribe to Congress Lens, like this video, and turn on notifications. I'm Audrey, and let's get into it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chopra, for being here. You just had a data breach at your agency, is that correct?
We have an insider threat that transferred on an unauthorized basis some emails to their personal email account.
And you were in charge when this happened?
Of course, right? Yes.
Okay. And this wasn't an attack from outside your agency. It came from inside of your agency. Is that correct?
That's right. Our systems were not penetrated. It was not a hack in that way, right. But we had an employee who worked for us who sent those emails. The data for 256,000 consumers was breached. Is that correct? Yeah, we looked through the emails. But is my number correct? I believe that's right. Yes, right. But it was not their. It was not any Social Security number, birth dates, any of that. It was their data, though, right? It was the institution's data, but it had their name, so that's important, and it's a huge problem. Yeah, it is. You didn't tell the customers that this happened to, the consumers, for 2 months. Is that correct? Well, we did not have the contact information for them, so we had to work with institutions to figure out who to contact, and we wanted to work in partnership. But you didn't tell them for 2 months? Well, is that correct? We started the notifications, I believe, last month, but again, we did not know the contact information for them. All we had was certain data elements, and we followed the cybersecurity OMB guidance to make sure that you can understand, can you not, why consumers might be a little concerned about you having their information. Is that correct? Oh, of course. The issue of protecting personal data. Let me ask you about Section 1071, your rule on small business data collection. Under your proposed rule, when a bank loans money to a small businesswoman or a small businessman, the bank, you would require the bank to ask that customer first about the customer's race. Is that right? So just to be clear, the proposal you reference, that has been changed since and has now into the final. The congressional requirement, and we are under a court order, requires race. Don't filibuster me, Mr. No, it does require race. Just answer my questions, okay? Is your rule going to require banks to ask the customer about their race? So that is in the statute. And about their race, or is your rule going to require the bank to ask the customer about their ethnicity? So just to be clear, in the sample form, it allows the borrower to self-identify or refuse. Just answer my question. No, I'm trying to be clear. No, you're not. No, you're not.
Your rule would require a bank to ask the question of a small business person, what's your race? What's your ethnicity? What's your sexual preference? Are you gay? Are you a woman? Now that's you can bubble wrap this all you want, but that's what your rule does. Now the customer, particularly in a small town, is going to go, whoa, what's my sexual preference have to do with a loan? And the customer can say, I don't want to answer. But then the bank you're requiring the bank to tell you that they wouldn't answer. And all of this data is going to go to your agency. And we don't have the slightest idea how you're going to use it, except you say you're going to publish it.
Well, we will not get any names at all.
But you're going to have data sets so that if it's possible. You can't tell me it's not possible to have this information known. Why do you want all this information?
I don't.
Why do you want to know what a small business woman's sexual preference is?
Okay, that's a mischaracterization.
No, it's not.
Of it. Yeah, it is. We
no,
have
it's
congressional
not.
objectives.
No, it's not.
We had to implement it. People can self-identify. There is no personal
Why do you want to know what a small business woman, let's say in a town of 20,000 people going to her local bank to borrow money, why do you want to know what her sexual preference is? What business is that of yours?
We sought to implement what the congressional requirements are.
What business is that of yours? What a small businesswoman does in her bedroom. Who appointed you Pope?
Again, people are able to self-identify if they wish.
You're
to
making them.
We are not making them.
Yes, you are.
No, we're not.
And if they don't answer, the bank has got to tell you. And we have no idea how you're going to use this information.
Well, I'm happy to meet with you about it further.
Director Chopra.
That's not, I don't believe that's an
Director Chopra, please.
Senator Kennedy,
Director Chopra, answer one more time, and then I turn it to Senator Warner, who is on.
Am I over again?
Yeah, you're way over again, and I always let you, but I'm not going to let you go 3 minutes over with the same question 8 times, Senator.
Well, if you'd answer it,
so just like the Home Mortgage Disclosure Act, there's other ways where there's requirements from Congress to collect data. In this situation, we took a lot of feedback to try and make it less intrusive, specifically based on the concern you're raising. There will not be individual consumer names sent. We can talk further about it, but we tried our best to implement the congressional directive faithfully and consider all of these issues.
After watching the full exchange, one thing is very clear. Senator John Kennedy was not confused. Rohit Chopra was evasive. This hearing starts with a basic, unavoidable fact. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau experienced a data breach involving the personal information of hundreds of thousands of Americans. This wasn't a foreign cyber attack. This wasn't a sophisticated hack. This was an internal failure carried out by an employee on Rohit Chopra's watch. Senator Kennedy establishes that point quickly and correctly. Leadership means responsibility. When you run an agency that collects sensitive data, you don't get to shrug and say, it wasn't a hack. Americans don't care how their data was exposed. They care that it was exposed and that they weren't told for nearly 2 months. And this is where Senator Kennedy's skepticism becomes completely justified. You cannot lose the trust of the public with a data breach and then ask for more data, especially data that has nothing to do with creditworthiness, repayment ability, or financial risk. Senator Kennedy zeroes in on Section 1071 because it represents something bigger than paperwork. It represents a philosophy of governance. Rohit Chopra repeatedly hides behind the phrase, Congress required it, but that doesn't excuse how the rule is designed or how intrusive it is. Senator Kennedy asks a very simple, common-sense question. Why does the federal government need to know a small business owner's sexual preference to approve a loan? That question is never directly answered, because it can't be. Instead, Rohit Chopra uses bureaucratic language, self-identification, optional, aggregate data, no names attached. But Senator Kennedy correctly points out that forced questions followed by forced reporting of non-answers is still coercion. If a bank must ask and must report refusal, the pressure is real, especially in small towns where anonymity doesn't exist. Senator Kennedy's now famous line, "Who appointed you Pope?" lands because it exposes the heart of the issue. Federal agencies are not moral arbiters. They are not cultural referees. They are not entitled to pry into the private lives of Americans under the guise of data collection. What makes this exchange powerful is not the volume, it's the persistence. Senator Kennedy refuses to let the conversation drift into technicalities because technicalities are how accountability gets buried. When Rohit Chopra dodges, Senator Kennedy brings it back to the real-world impact on ordinary people. Even the moment where the chair cuts Senator Kennedy off proves the point. When tough questions get uncomfortable, the system rushes to move on. But discomfort is often where the truth lives. At the end of the day, Senator John Kennedy wasn't grandstanding. He was doing oversight the way it's supposed to be done. Clear questions, direct challenges, and zero patience for bureaucratic doublespeak. And whether you agree with him politically or not, every American should want lawmakers who are willing to ask, why do you want this information? Who authorized it? And what happens if you misuse it? That's not partisanship. That's accountability. This is Congress Lens. I'm Audrey. And this is why we watch Congress closely.